we'll join some lines and we'll isolate layers, and we might fade this image to the background. Actually, we'll start with that. Drawing with the yellow lines on white background can be a bit hard to see, so one thing you can do is if you right click, select your image, the edge of the image, right click and go to properties. Somewhere in here there'll be these guys, fade, adjust. You click in here, it doesn't let you do it just by plugging in. You have to press on these dots. You can change the sort of brightness, contrast of the image, and that doesn't edit the actual file, it just edits the way it displays. So what I'd like to do sometimes is just fade that image a little bit. Okay, so now everything's a bit darker. Now we've drawn some more walls, and I might just trim that guy back. Trim that guy and then delete those, hit the delete key. What tends to happen is you kind of get to this point and there's some lines that aren't sort of where they should be. You want to trim that one out, but then you want to kind of join them back into polylines. So for example, this guy, we want that to be all joined. We probably want to not have that joined, bring that corner back. So what we can do is we can just type, it's just X for explode, and that explodes those, and then they go back into just straight up lines, and I can drag that guy across. I won't, generally you try not to have joins unless you have to, so I'll just drag that guy back up to the end here. Now the join command in AutoCAD in this release is one of those features that doesn't work. So the way to join lines and polylines, so we'll do this guy. So it's got a bit of, there's arcs and lines and polylines. The way to do it is a command called pedit, or just PE is the shortcut. Then importantly you have to say M for multiple, because we want to select all of those lines. Then you can just drag the window, select all of those lines, arcs, etc. Then enter. It'll ask whether you want to turn it into polylines, and you say yes, so it's just enter because the Y is already there. And then we want to join, so J for join, enter. It asks you for a fuzz distance, which is a pretty weird thing to ask. Basically it's sort of if you had a very small gap between these points, say like a 2mm gap, because you're drawing sort of sloppily, you can set that to say 5mm, and they'll kind of snap to one another. We've been drawing reasonably accurately, so we'll just leave it as 0 and just hit enter, and then enter again, and hopefully, yes it has, so that's turned that into a polyline. Now if I wanted that to be closed, probably trim that back. Trim. I'd do that all over again, or you can select it and go into the properties, and there's somewhere in there that says miscellaneous, open or closed. Yes, and that'll close that up. Now the other thing I wanted to show you is the isolate command, and that click on that, and firstly I like to set it so everything just gets turned off. So I go to settings, enter, then type O for off, and then when I click on a layer it isolates, so it turns everything else off, and then to unisolate, click on that guy, which is really useful if you're working on a complex drawing with lots of layers. Isolate, do your little bit of detail on that one layer, then unisolate.